Welcome to the Open to Hope Show. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Horsley, with my daughter and co-host,
Dr. Heidi Horsley.
Heidi, we're going to be talking about passion and purpose today, which I think is a very important topic for everyone.
Absolutely. Developing passion and purpose after loss. It has definitely been the thing that has transformed my life after Scott died. So I'm looking forward to talking to our guests about this. But before we do that, I just want to tell our audience that you have a new book out.
Right.
It comes out on February 14th, Valentine's Day. You wrote it with your fiance. You are the dating doctors. Mm-hmm. So Dr. Frank Powers and Dr. Gloria Horsley. And Mom, what is the name of your new book?
Open to Love, The Secrets of Senior Dating. And Frank and I wrote this together. We met on Silver Singles and learned a lot about dating after the loss of your dad. And so we decided to do a book and give the proceeds to the Open to Hope Foundation.
Yes, so please check out the book and get it, and you will hear a lot of amazing advice and information from the dating doctors.
Right.
AKA my mother. And
I'll have to tell you, Heidi, we have a whole section in there on passion and purpose because we feel that it's so important in life.
Absolutely. So let me talk about our three guests briefly, and then we will start talking to them more about how they found passion and purpose after their losses. We will start right here with Claudia. Claudia Coenen is the author of Shattered by Grief, Picking Up the Pieces to Become Whole Again, the Creative Toolkit for Working with Grief and Bereavement, a Practitioner's Guide, and the Karuna Cards, which are right here, Creative Prompts for Difficult Transitions. Her newest book is called Seasons of Grief, Creative Interventions to Support Bereaved People. And Claudia is a certified grief counselor and has a private practice in Hudson, New York. So welcome, Claudia.
Thank you.
And next to Claudia is Elizabeth Coplan. Elizabeth turned her personal loss into the groundbreaking play cycle Grief Dialogues. Her play Till Death opened off Broadway in November of 2023, and we saw it on Tuesday night and thought it was absolutely phenomenal. Very relevant and very on point. And I resonated with a lot of it. So that was exciting to see that. And Ken Ross, who's sitting next to you, was on stage afterwards talking, doing a Q&A. And Claudia is going to do a Q&A on November 19th. December 19th. Very good. So what else do I want to say about you, Elizabeth? Let's see. In addition, you wrote the award-winning play Hospice: A Love Story, and your play Honoring Choices became a festival favorite short film, and you have also co-written the play The Choice with your husband, Scott.
Right, thank you.
Love it, and I love his name, of course. And then next to Elizabeth is Ken Ross. We know Ken well. Ken is...
Elizabeth is next to me.
The other Elizabeth.
Exactly. I love how you're sitting next to Elizabeth, who's also your mother's
We
name.
flanked you.
It's a beautiful thing. Ken is on the board of directors for the Open to Hope Foundation. We've known him a long time. Ken is the son of Dr. Elisabeth Kubler-Ross and serves as the founder and president of the Elisabeth Kubler-Ross Foundation. Ken has kept his mother's legacy alive by donating her archives to Stanford University, overseeing a movie about his mother's life, and collaborating with publishers to disseminate Kubler-Ross books in 44 languages, which is phenomenal. Ken has also cultivated a distinguished career in travel photography because he has captured moments across 109 countries.
I know. Can you believe it?
Which is unbelievable. We actually connected up with him in Bali this summer, which was really amazing. So welcome to the show, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, passion and purpose. I know you all, and I've met you all, and I know you all have a lot of passion about what you do and a lot of purpose in your life. So let's talk about how important is passion to you. Elizabeth, why don't you talk to us?
Passion to me, especially at this age, is probably the most important, is it considered an emotion, feeling? I've always enjoyed things in my life. I was very passionate about being an actor early in my life. That didn't quite pan out, but I moved on. I had a good career, loving family. I still have a loving family. But a true passion that absorbs me more than traditional roles was something that was very important to me. And I didn't really realize until a loss that I had let that passion sort of go on the back burner. Not sort of, it was on the back burner. I had my family, I had my career in marketing, and I would go to the theater, but it was no longer a passion, it was a pastime. Then with several losses, and finally the loss of my cousin where I was at her bedside, that passion got reignited in that I needed to do something with my grief, and I turned to dramatic writing. So the passion became a very important part of my life because of my loss. And now I feel like I have a huge purpose, especially, and I want to thank you so much for what you said about my play. And yes, it's my script, but I will say the directing with Chad Austin, the entire Abington
brilliant.
Theater Company, the actors, the designers, they all take my words and make it a real purpose, if you will. And to be able to share that story in such a way, it's actually a compilation story, but to share that storytelling in such a way with a lot of people, it just makes the passion even stronger purpose. And now I want to share that even more.
Yeah.
So that's my purpose, to share.
And how about you, Ken?
I love it.
What's your passion and purpose?
You know, when I travel, I meet a lot of people, and I don't really know their culture sometimes. And so the first thing I always ask strangers around the world is, what are your 3 biggest passions?
Oh, I love that
You know,
question.
and you can't say anything about family or work. It has to be
Wow.
the heart. And the reactions are incredible. I've had people call me 5 years later saying, okay, I know what the answer is. But people start crying, people get angry. It really triggers like on this incredible scale. And
That's
I would love to
interesting.
do a book on all the answers I've heard, because even after asking this question 40 years, I'm still getting new answers every week.
What's your favorite?
I can't say it on TV. No. It is, you know, everything across the board. Like, you know, people have these hobbies and things, and you really get to know somebody. Like, you'd never guess that this person, you know, does whatever, you know, talks to fish, or, you know, is an animal psychic, or all these
Wow.
things. So when I travel, the idea of passion is very central to me connecting with people.
I love
And
it.
so it really is, you know, it touches some people, and other people, you know, that person, I'm not going to connect with that person because they have no passions. They've never thought about passion. So passion is definitely
Do you
central.
think that you deal a lot with the grief and loss world, taking the hospice world and everything around? Do you think that people are more passionate that have had a loss and been to those depths, or how do you find that?
I think the people who've been able to process the grief, you know, they process it, and maybe they're not reflecting on the grief so much. They begin reflecting on themselves and what they need, and reflecting on what the rest of their life is going to be. And when they begin reflecting on the future, the remaining time, you know, they want to fill that space with something meaningful. And passion, you know, is what could be more meaningful than, you know, finding passion and different, you know, habits, different things, you know, we didn't know we had in ourselves. So tapping into that unknown, the possibility,
You know,
is
I
great.
think that sometimes, you know, when we talk about death, I've thought about it. If there wasn't death, I mean, you would just go on and you wouldn't have to have any passion and purpose. When there's a time
Exactly.
limit, then it says, okay.
Turns up the dial.
Yeah,
Yes, it
turn up the
does.
dial. Let's figure out something.
And sometimes when somebody dies, it puts your own mortality into question, and you're
Right.
like, wait a minute, I'm not going to be here forever. I need to do a deep dive into what's important for me, what my passion is, what my purpose is, and maybe do more of that in my life.
It's interesting because we were at dinner the other night and my granddaughter's like, oh, in 20 years I'll be doing this, and everybody, and I said, geez, I know what I'll be doing in 20 years. You know, and so I've got a time limit, you know. We've written a new book, and we have you guys here, and life is exciting and passionate because I know it's going to end,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, Claudia, how about you?
So I would say that since I was a little girl, creativity has been my passion, and I started dancing when I was 3, and I danced all through my life, was a choreographer well into my 40s. But I also was a musician with my family as I was growing up, and I was always interested in how people express themselves through music, through dance, through art. My parents had many friends who were artists and actors, so I was exposed to a whole range of creativity as I was growing up. And I used to have these long-distance blue airmail paper arguments with my great-aunt Hilda in France about whether everyone was creative or not. And I held that everybody is creative, and my aunt said, no, that's not true, because what she was talking about was not everybody's going to be a Picasso or a Martha Graham or an Alvin Ailey. And I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about the fact that we all have an opportunity to view things in a different way, to express ourselves, whether it's through cooking or gardening or making some art, or whatever it is, or even just turning around some thought that's holding us back. That's a creative act as well. Journaling is something that I've done my whole life. So I would say that my passion is for creativity. And when I decided, when my first husband died, and I went to creative process to help myself, I thought, oh, this is interesting. Maybe I could become a creative grief counselor in some way. So I kind of cobbled together a program that got me to that place.
And is the Karuna cards part of that?
The Karuna cards are part of that because the Karuna cards were started when I was in hospice. I was always suggesting creative ideas, and and particularly journaling. So somebody might say, oh, I can't talk to them anymore, and I would say, but you could do these things. And writing in your journal is a really good way, but some people didn't really know how to begin. So I started out with 5 slips of paper that had little prompts on them, and then they became 25 cards. Then they were 40 cards, and then when I went to have them published by Jessica Kingsley Publishing, we decided to take it up to 52 cards.
So there's 52
so
cards.
There are 52 cards in here. Some of them are journal prompts, some of them are other creative prompts, and I can give you an example if you like.
Please.
So I usually recommend that you shuffle and choose a random one, but this is one of my favorites. It says, imagine yourself as a superhero. What is your secret superhero name? What is your special superhero skill? Describe yourself as this powerful being. Include a superhero costume, an object of power, and how you use it, and any other details that pop into your imagination. And you could write about this. You could draw a picture of yourself as a superhero. Just a different way of looking at
That would
things.
be a fun thing to have around the dinner table and have people talk about.
Yeah, and the cards can be used that way too. Just as starting of items of conversation.
Yeah.
How fun. Well, Ken, how about your photography? What do you create in that?
I'm looking out, but I'm also looking in, of course, right? Like, what do I see in these other cultures? What are our commonalities? And, just developing relationships, which become, friendships, which become family, which become life, which become work. It's like this big circle that kind of feeds itself. So it's interesting how, all these things come together, and people I met 10, 20, 30 years ago in different places around the globe become part of my family.
That's
And
amazing.
it just keeps enriching my life and making it better and more interesting. So I'm always looking for, just meeting people and crossing that little boundary to talk to a stranger in some strange land and realizing you have something in common. So it's a beautiful way to go through life, and using this camera as a tool to break the ice and meet strangers
Right.
on the street.
Yeah.
Well, and you grew up doing this. Your mother was bringing you all over the world when you were a little boy.
Right, but I was much more shy back then, so I thought I was going to hide behind the camera and not have to talk to anyone. And I realized I was missing all these beautiful portraits, and so I really, went after my mother's lesson that we should challenge our fears, live more fully, because our fears are so silly, but we get to the end of our lives, they've stopped us from living fully. So I really pushed myself and began photographing people on the street, with their permission, and it's really had some interesting experiences and made my life so much more interesting and wonderful.
How, just for anybody here, I'm watching this and I'm thinking, where do I start? I've had a loss, I'm feeling down, I'm feeling useless, I'm older, where do I start? Anybody got a thought on that?
The first step, or the Chinese proverb, journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. You just gotta take a chance. You're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna get hurt, but that's part of life. And so just beginning to have momentum is the most important thing, I think. Just
Do
take
it now,
chances.
as
Yeah,
they
take
say,
chances,
Nike.
make those mistakes. If you're not making mistakes, you're not trying hard enough.
Say yes.
Say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what someone said to me when my husband died. Say yes to every
Yeah.
opportunity.
I don't know how you all felt, but when my brother died, and then my father, the thing that was interesting for me is when they first died, I thought the best part of my life is over. The magic is gone. My life won't be as good, just initially. And then, like you all said, slowly by doing these things and putting myself out there and not having fear and saying yes and going for walks, slowly I found that no, it's not over.
Right.
I'm going to have joy again. I'm going to have amazing things happen again,
Yeah.
which I have.
You know, just what we're doing today, I was so afraid when Compassionate Friends asked me to do a podcast for them. I mean, this is back in online radio, 17 years ago,
Yeah.
Heidi. And Scott had died, and I was, terrified about the idea of doing online radio. You know, I was just, it was an experience. And then we started doing TV. I was terrified again when I found out you could do public access and go train to be a camera person, and there are opportunities out there to scare you.
On a daily basis.
Elizabeth knows. She just did a play in New York City.
Yeah. Talk about scared. I'm still scared. Yes. I do want to add to that yes, the starts with a walk in my case, and then ultimately, luckily, here doing a show off Broadway. But I wear my mom with me.
I love
And
this.
I made sure that she was with me on opening night. And that was just really important to me. The play isn't necessarily about her death, although a lot about her is in the play. But that was really important, that of all the people that I have lost, that she's the one that really instilled the passion of theater in me. And so I had to have her with me. So even though it's been 20 years since she died, she was there opening night.
I love that. It makes me also think of Ken, and that his mother instilled the passion of travel.
And when I took her purse after she died, I looked in it, and she was carrying my father's sunglasses, even though they had divorced 20 years earlier.
That's so
So
interesting.
I didn't realize that. I never really looked in her purse before. And like, wow.
You didn't realize
I
that she
can't
still
believe
had
she
that
was so
bond
attached,
with him.
even though they were divorced. You know, she always carried a piece of him with her.
That's
That was
amazing.
special.
Does this bring up anything for you, Claudia?
You mean carrying them with me?
Yeah.
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, this ring, my second husband and I bought the ruby in Egypt on one of our trips, and then he brought it home and he had it made for me, and that's important. And sometimes, often wear a necklace that my first husband, bought me on the last day, the day before he died. So those symbols are really important. But I also want to say that, the idea of using creativity for grief healing is it's not a unique one, but it's a very important one. And the new book, Seasons of Grief, is a creative book, and I'm not the only one who wrote it. I'm the editor and the weaver of it.
Yeah.
But it has 17 collaborators in there, and there are art therapists and music thanatologists, somatic therapists. Dr. Bob Niemeyer contributed poetry to it, and there's art. Deborah Koff-Chapin's art is in it. So I'm hoping that the book feels creative, like a creative experience to dive into and then find these techniques that are there. There's this wonderful nature counselor in England who wrote 4 chapters for the book, and where it's framed through the seasons. So it was a really wonderful project to bring people together. It was also really fun to do it after the pandemic because we weren't able to be together. So I gathered everybody on Zoom in wisdom circles from wherever they were in the world to talk about the progress of the book.
I love
So there was your writing, but also if people get your book, there are ideas on what they can do. They can do collages, they can do poetry, they can do all the. Were you going to
Walking
say
in
something?
nature.
Well, I was going to say something because I'm in Claudia's
Yes.
book.
Oh, I love it.
But my chapter called Out of Grief Comes Art. Actually, I actually interviewed about 15 different artists, for everything from visual art to dance to music to everything. And I believe the book took 6 or 7. And so they're actually interviews of the different artists, their stories, as well as the things that helped them through their loss, and then their own recommendations of what others can do. And you don't have to be a dancer to read what the dancer has to say about movement. So that's also in Claudia's book.
Yes.
So it's very helpful. I know you've written it for therapists, but it could help anybody.
I really want my books. My publisher thinks that writing them for practitioners and therapists is going to be a bigger seller. So we do focus it in that way. And of course, there's really amazing, able-bodied and heart-centered clinicians that have written for this book, in addition to people like Elizabeth and other people. An end-of-life doula wrote a chapter. But I do want my books to be very accessible so that anybody can use them.
Well, I'm just wondering if people are out there, for the 3 of you, and they want to figure out how to start with something creative, what would you suggest? Anyone?
My favorite go-to is start using your hands,
Okay.
whether it's gardening or cooking or doodling or writing an essay or whatever, just whatever you think you can do with your hands, tinkering, do it.
Yeah.
Okay, because something with your hands starts the
Something tactile.
process. Yeah. Ken, do you have any thoughts about this?
I'd say break patterns. You know,
Okay,
because
I
we're
like
all
this.
stuck in these patterns. Okay, well, I don't do this, so you're just closing yourself off to so
They
many
say I'm not a
possibilities in life.
creative, or I'm not an
Yeah,
artist, or I'm not a
we're
photographer.
we all have it, like, you know, we just don't know it. We have all these incredible talents and gifts, and we know people who can inspire us, so break patterns. Don't be afraid to, you know,
Yeah.
go out and do something you've never done, and just, you know, even excel in the
like this.
mistakes you made, but just, you know, embrace it with passion.
I like it.
And, you know, you'll find things out there you wouldn't expect. So break those patterns and challenge that fear.
I love it when people say I can't sing. Everyone can sing if you've got a voice. I mean,
Yes.
Or a
I
shower.
know.
you know, I mean, there are some people maybe who don't have a voice that can't sing
Or
for
I
some
can't
reason. but-
dance.
Yeah, I
But like
can't
you said,
dance.
move.
everybody can sing and dance. I sing all the time, even though my kids tell me I can't.
But I also think journaling is really, really helpful. And if that doesn't mean that you sit down and you write, today I had oatmeal for breakfast. I mean, it's not a diary.
Yeah.
It's a container for your grief, for your creativity, for what you might envision for the future. And you can write diagonally in colors. You can collage in there. If you listen to a song that you find meaningful, you can write the lyrics in there.
Oh, I like that.
I collect a lot of poetry in my journals. I find that very helpful, and then sometimes I'll whip it out and read the poem to a friend because it's just very meaningful. So I always recommend to my clients to get a journal, a book that they find very attractive to them. Maybe it has a nice cover, or they like the way the pages are laid out inside, and then just pour some of yourself into that. And it's private space, so then you close it, you take it out of yourself, externalizing, you put it in, and then you put it over there for a while.
Well, my passion is playing golf.
I was thinking that with your hands. Think about you're moving your.
Yeah.
Moving.
My passion is playing golf and getting better.
There you go.
Well, and
Taking some
golf
lessons, hanging out with some people.
is a meditation.
Yes,
it's a moving meditation.
It's a single point meditation.
Right. Good point.
Yeah. And you really can't think about anything on the course. It's like skiing too. That's another activity that makes you focus singly.
And, as you know very well, don't let your age stop you from doing things you're too old to do. There's no such
Yes.
thing.
That's
so
right. That's right.
You know very well.
I like that, Ken.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
You're never too old
Never too old.
Elizabeth.
to go try
Coplan
something
saying.
new,
Yeah.
some new
Yes.
passion and purpose. You know, we were in Africa, and there was a woman there who was following these little rodents and doing all these things, you know, writing about them and studying them and all that. And we were like, who's funding you? And she said, oh, this camp here gives me money, but this is my passion.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought that was so interesting.
Yes.
And she, you know, is up there at night watching these little things, and she just has this passion
Yeah.
to do this
Right,
project.
right.
So I got from that a passion project. Now I
Yes.
say, you know, what you're doing is a passion project, whatever it be. It may be taking care of some plants or, you know, whatever, passion
Right.
and purpose.
Right.
So let's go think about what advice would you have again for somebody who is feeling like really down and out, really down and out, and not feeling good about themselves. I worry in the grief and loss world that some people feel like they hadn't done enough for that person, or they've gotten themselves so down and out, or they're so embarrassed or ashamed, or you know, Heidi sometimes tells a story about me where I was going to go out and go running, and after my son died, and I said I can't do this because the neighbors will think I don't care.
Right.
You know, how do we deal with this? How do we get ourselves knowing it's okay? Anybody got a thought on that?
I know what your mother would say. So
Well, I made plenty of mistakes with my mother, believe me. She was constantly complaining. So, you know, I just embrace the idea that life is chapters, right? And so, you know, we expect life to be linear, and we're always going to be doing this, and this person's always going to be with us, but life is chapters, and we just have to accept that. We don't have to, but we should, to be healthier. And so I've embraced that my parents were, you know, each a chapter of my life, and my pets are a chapter of my life, but I understand that all chapters have to come to an end. And, you know, once we can embrace that, then we can kind of live in a healthier fashion.
I like that,
So,
Ken.
life, and that was from my
Because-
father, actually. So life is chapters.
I like that because sometimes when the chapter ends, you fight with yourself.
Yeah, it's not a
because
mistake.
you don't want it
that
to
was
end.
a chapter. Like,
yes, and
you
it's like
know,
it's over.
That's the most natural thing on earth, but we want to fight it. But that was a chapter.
Yeah.
Even if it was a big chapter
Yeah.
central to my life, it was still a chapter.
I
And
love it. Elizabeth.
Right. Well, I just wanted to piggyback a little bit on what Ken said, because the other night you mentioned, I forget exactly in the context, but your mother would have said, that's their problem. And that's what I
like
was
that.
thinking.
opinion of you is their
I
problem.
love
right.
it. That's the other.
Yes, so like your
That's their
story.
problem.
But I also, when I sat, in the car wash, after my mom died, I thought too, for a moment, I thought, oh, people are going to say, what'd you do after it's so sad. And well, I went to the grocery store, and because life has to go on.
Right.
And and that's other people's problem. So
Right.
I would learn to focus on what I need at that moment. That's what I've learned to do.
I love it. Claudia,
let
how about
others.
you? Have you got
I
a quickie?
think to tag team on that, staying in the moment, which is very hard to do. You have to keep bringing yourself back. But being mindful and slowing down, like instead of thinking, I can't get through my life, I can't get through this day, make yourself a mindful cup of tea. And that is, and I have that in the Karuna cards and also
Like
in my
that.
first book. So slow down how you do that when you choose the cup. You choose the tea. You
like
listen to
this.
the sound of the water going into the vessel that's going to heat it up. And you smell it as you make it. And then you take that very mindful sip and allow that to sort of come into your body.
I love it.
and
So
so-
make a cup of tea. Well, I want to thank you guys all
I
for
like
being
it.
on the show today. You're inspirational, and I know you're going to help a lot of people think about purpose and meaning in their life, because it's important for you all to have purpose and meaning and find that purpose again that you had.
Absolutely. And quickly, websites, just very quickly.
The Karuna Project.
KarunaProject.com,
Griefdialogues.com.
griefdialogues.com.
EKRFoundation.org and KenRossPhotography.com.
Very
Thank
good.
you all.
Thank you.
And we want to remind you that we have a new book coming out, Open to Love, The Secrets of Senior Dating. And also we want to thank you for watching the show today. And we want to remind you that if you've lost hope, please lean on ours until you find your own, and God bless.
The loss of a loved one can leave you feeling depressed, angry, alone, lost. But you don't have to face this journey on your own. Open to Hope is a free community for anyone who has experienced loss. Find support. Find help. Find hope. Give grief a voice at opentohope.com.